Similar thing to my video from Tuesday, because I filmed these right after each other. This one's out of focus again, so again, I can only apologise. I'm not going to refilm it though because I'm busy and don't want to be refilming things if I can't help it. Pop it on in the background, listen to my lovely voice. Don't look at the camera. Don't look at the video even. Bleh, words are not working for me today. Have fun.
Hi everybody, hope you're all doing really well and welcome to my spoiler-free review of The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. So I picked up Ninth Reign because I'd heard lots of good people talking about it and stuff, and then I was kind of doing a read along in a sort of little book club outing with a few of my friends on BookTube, and this was the one that we chose because it turns out a lot of us kind of already had it and had decided we were going to read it. So yeah, the synopsis is, the great city of Abora, once glittered with gold, now its streets are stalked by wolves. Tormund the Oathless has no taste for sitting around waiting to die whilst the realm of his storied ancestors falls to pieces. Talk about a guilt trip. Better to be amongst the living, where there are taverns full of women and wine. When eccentric explorer Lady Vincenza Vintage de Grazon offers him employment, he sees an easy way out. Even when they are joined by a fugitive witch with a tendency to set things on fire, the prospect of facing down monsters and retrieving ancient artifacts is preferable to the abomination he left behind. But not everyone is willing to let a Boran empire collapse, and the adventurers are quickly drawn into a tangled conspiracy of magic and war. For the Juralia are coming, and the Ninth Reign must fall. So it was a really, really interesting premise, and I had like I said, I don't really have too many expectations going into this book, but at the same time I did have quite high expectations because I'd heard people absolutely raving about it, sort of thing. So I was really interested to kind of see what was so good about this series. But it was an odd one for me, because I loved the world building, but I found mostly everything else to then be quite mediocre, yet I was still attached to these characters and what was happening to them, but also feeling like the characters were flat and had no development. It was really, really weird. But as I said, the world building was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I had nothing but praise for the world building in this book. But it was just a bit weird of how like the plot and the characters almost seemed to exist to further the world building and the exploration of, the Juralia and the previous wars, locations, all these mysteries and stuff surrounding these invasions and stuff. Each character feels like, Tor, who's the Aboran, he kind of becomes exists to explore who the Aborans are and their importance of things. Noon is a Fell Witch. She almost exists just to explore what Fell Witches are and what that whole plotline is. Vintage is there just to sort of further the interest into the alien invasions and stuff because she's such a fanatic about it kind of things. They almost feel like not plot devices but world building devices. I did love Vintage as a character though, like she was easily my favourite. She was fun and smart and like she uses people and things to her advantage and stuff. But while still being a really caring person, like I think she was the character I found with have the most depth to her, even though she still was quite a sort of almost 2D kind of like character. Which was just really interesting as well, she's like not overly manipulative. She's just more likely to try and spin a situation to her own advantage and stuff. I loved her obsession with the Juralia and how she's so fascinated with everything. She's got this really great explorer's curiosity to her, which was just really, really fun to follow, and I liked her dynamic with Tor and with Noon and stuff, and how she kind of like brings them into things, how she handles Tor and things. Like, she is just a really fun character, a really strong kind of main character to be following. So she was definitely my favourite out of the three. But as I said, she was just kind of, not quite as much depth to her as I really wanted to be, but she was the more kind of like complex character of the three. Tor was definitely really bland for me in my opinion. I enjoyed his vanity and his friendship with Vintage, but overall there was just very little about his character that stood out to me. He mostly served as like a way to explore Aborans, as I mentioned earlier. They're like a mix of elves and vampires and stuff, which was very interesting to sort of explore. But as a character, yeah, I just didn't really care for him, didn't really find him all that compelling. Sorry, Tor. Noon was a character that had lots of potential, She's an incredibly shy Fell Witch who escapes from her prison and she's trying to hide the fact that she's a fugitive from Vintage and Tor, who are then sitting there kind of being like, we know you're lying, but we're just going to go with it until you feel comfortable to admit it. Like, it was a really funny dynamic. It was very entertaining of her just like badly lying about who she is and stuff, and like just Vintage being like, yeah, sure, I believe you, sure, and just like side-eyeing Tor the whole time. It was very funny. Noon has a lot of potential with like a sort of confidence arc, but sadly it just kind of didn't quite come to like the potential it had. It progressed too quickly and then kind of dropped the ball. It was just like over too quickly, progressed from one thing to another in like 3 pages. if that makes any sense. You know, she'd go from being this really shy, quiet character to be like really, really confident in herself within about like 2 pages or something. It was just almost a bit too quick. I almost feel like that could have been something that could have been done over the whole series rather than over one book. You know, I did like her a lot more than Tor, and she provided good insight into the Fellwitch side of the world. You know, she was an interesting character. She's my second favourite after Vintage, obviously, but, you know, still, just kind of the similar thing of just like, she's just very clearly there just to explore that whole Fellwitch side of things and stuff, which I wasn't too big a fan of, because, like, you know, I kind of wish that these characters had been treated like characters rather than just, oh, how do they fit into this world? But yeah, but the world building, I mean, absolutely phenomenal. I just have nothing but praise for it. You know, we've got these broken pieces of these old alien ships. You've got one hanging in the sky as a corpse moon, and what people's opinions are about that and stuff. You've got this dead tree that was like connected to the Aborans and stuff, and why it's dead and how that relates to everything. Love the mystery of this resin stuff that the aliens have left behind that kind of freezes things and nobody knows what it is and why. You know, what's going on. It's also interesting and just fascinating to explore it. Like, it really kept me interested in the story, because, as I said, everything else was so mediocre, but the world building was just amazing. You know, why is Yggdrasil dead, and the parasite spirits, spell witches and their magic, and like the mythology behind them as well, because there's an interesting plot thread of where their magic comes from and why they've been persecuted for so long, and who this sort of almost like mythological person who started that persecution came from and stuff. You know, it's just so amazingly thought out by the author, and it's just so interesting, and I think I'm going to continue the series just to find out the answers to what the hell is going on, because it's just so interesting, everything that's going on with this world building and this alien invasion and this fantasy land and stuff, and oh, I loved it so much. So yeah, like I said, mixed feelings overall, but just phenomenal world building, and then average to bland characters and little in the way of plot. Some things that felt really rushed. There was like a few instances of things being set up with no delivery later in the book, which was quite annoying. But I enjoyed it. I'm going to continue the series to satisfy my curiosity, you know. But it's not. I don't think it's going to be a priority read for me, to be honest. You know, because like I said, that's kind of all that's keeping me going. You know, I think I'm giving it like 2.5 to 3 stars out of 5 kind of thing. You know, I liked it. It was enjoyable, but it's just the world building that's really standing out for me. Everything else is kind of a bit meh. But yeah, have you read The Ninth Frame by Jen Williams? What did you think of it? Do you agree with anything I've said in this video? Do you disagree with anything? Let me know, spoiler free, down below in the comments. I would love to hear what your opinions are. If you're interested in this video, feel free to leave a like and feel free to subscribe. I post 2 videos a week. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.